Children have got to be free to lead their own lives. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for Disney Royalty number 4, The Little Mermaid, Ariel, and Eric. So here we are at the Disney Renaissance, the undoubtedly most popular era for Disney, spawning films like Our Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Colossal Giant, The Lion King, and a really solid, great era for films from Disney. This was the era that essentially brought the company back, and it's easy to see why. The main theme for the Disney Renaissance was bring a bit of Broadway to Disney, and they brought more than just a bit. A big thing in this era is musical numbers, oddly enough, and they're exciting, they're experiences. And actually that's what sums up the Disney Renaissance, I think. It's an experience. Because nothing is sort of there just to be there. Everything feels very natural within itself. This is the golden age of Disney to a lot of people because everything is so strong and there's a lot of growth coming here. This is Disney royalty era that people talk about the most. These are the princesses and princes that make the Disney brand what it is for the most part. In a world where the animated shows are sort of dying out at this point. I think the high point at this era for Disney was Gargoyles. DuckTales had slowly tapered off. Darkwing Duck was doing decent to really good. And it was just sort of a different era. We already talked about some other films that came up at the Disney Renaissance, like the DuckTales movie. But we'll also be looking at things like The Rescue Was Down Under that came out around this time too. But they couldn't compare. The 90s was a Disney dominated decade. I Nothing else should have had the courage to come up in terms of animation for the most part. But we're sort of rambling on. Let's talk about Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid it's the flagship appropriately for the Disney Renaissance. Some people would equate that to Who Framed Roger Rabbit or The Great Mouse Detective, but at that point we're sort of splitting hairs. The first film of the Disney Renaissance is officially Little Mermaid. And it sets itself up very different from its three predecessors, Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, from down to the fact that there's no prologue. There's no this is what happens before the movie starts. Before you really get involved, the movie just starts off where it starts. There's no before you get here. Let me tell you about how Ariel's mother died, then her father died, and then it turns out an evil octopus fairy lady came in, cursed her so she had to live with her wicked stepfamily. And yeah, a bunch of mice came in and tried to make her a dress, but then it turned into a dragon. But no, no, no. Everything happens as it's happening. There's no you have to know this. No, no, we're here. This is the story. Sit in with it. And she's very much the most proactive princess of her time at this point, and that's what helps this movie stand out. What makes Ariel stand out as a Disney princess. She's the first one to actively say, "I want this. I'm going to get it," and that's it. It's a cautionary, sort of a risky message to tell kids or anyone really, because there's a bit of a flaw with Ariel's character, and it's not a noticeable one, but it's something you notice as you look through the film and go to for character a bit more. Ariel is unintentionally selfish. And by unintentional, I mean she's not aware that her wanting to do what she wants to do can negatively impact other people. So the movie starts off with this great performance. It's supposed to be for King Triton, probably his birthday. Maybe he totally fixed the debt crisis. Who knows? All we know is it's for him. His daughters all got together to perform this. Sebastian worked super hard for this, and it totally slipped Ariel's mind. Now, this is not something that came up spur of the moment. This had to have been rehearsed for days, for weeks. This was a big thing, so for her to forget means that it was the farthest thing from her. She's a bit absent-minded at best, and she's accidentally selfish at worst. We see this again with how she drags Flounder out to abandoned ships to look for stuff, knowing full well that just about everything in the ocean will eat Flounder. And Flounder communicates this very well. Flounder is very aware of his place in the universe. And real quick to talk about Flounder and Sebastian, I think they're great. They're really fun characters. Flounder is the archetypal best friend. I think we see him best in PJ in the Goof Troop movie, but Sebastian's only real rival is Zazu. Only real rival is Zazu for the very stressed out person who has to watch the royal child. That's sort of it. But he's a bit more in comparison with Lumiere. Because he and Lumiere both sort of have this sort of love of showmanship and creating this epic moment. And the same thing goes for Genie. They're really interesting and fun characters because of that. But Ariel is, let's sum it up as, she's Disney's first fangirl. She is. She goes around, she collects really fun things, she goes to consult the internet, I mean Scuttle, about what it is, and she found Scuttle, aka the one person on the internet who has no idea what these things are, but it sounds cool. And she totally immerses herself in understanding this world and loving it and wants to be there. This is her Hogwarts for all intents and purposes. And the sad thing is, Hogwarts for her is just right there, just right there. If only she could walk. And then of course we know she sees Eric, and she's like, oh, Eric, oh he's so gorgeous, so beautiful. No, not the dog, Scuttle. Eric, the one with the hair, with less hair. And she saves him. She becomes a bit smitten with him. And then, of course, the statue scene. And to be fair to King Triton, that was creepy. Anytime you see a 16-year-old girl about to make out with the statue, it's best to sit down. His actions weren't proper, but as we saw in later Little Mermaid sequels, that Ariel's mom was killed by humans, whether intentionally or accidentally. So we understand where he's coming from later on. But here he's come off as the dad who doesn't get it. He's very 80s film, like, no, these dreams are dangerous, and you don't know what you're talking about. And Ariel comes up with the best answer ever. I'm 16 years old. I'm not a child anymore. It's like, okay, sure. But, the statue breaks. Ariel's really upset. She's broken down. Her dreams seem far away. This is more equivalent to the Cinderella scene where the dress is destroyed, but it doesn't quite hit the same level. And I'll come back to that in a while. Then she meets Flotsam, and Jasmine says, hey, there's someone who can help you. Yeah, Ursula. Ursula. The lady you meet a lot in the Little Mermaid animated series and who you met in Kingdom Hearts 1, but somehow you keep thinking you can trust her. Yeah, the expanded universe stuff is not good for Ariel's character. But she goes there, she makes the deal, she makes the jump, and this is something that her predecessors never got to make. The act to say, this is where my dream is. Someone can give me my dream, or at the very least, put me in a position where I can achieve it. So she signs the name, she takes that leap, she takes that risk, and almost drowns. Bad planning on Ursula's part. And then she meets Eric, and it's fun watching Ariel freak out a bit, or like get super nervous when she sees Eric, and she's trying to straighten up her hair, totally ignoring the fact that that's been exposed to years of salt water. But whatever, she's in, she can't speak, so we see a lot of fun. So this is actually, I think, where a lot of the animation really comes in. Like, everything in Little Mermaid is awesome, it's great, it's what the Disney Renaissance is best known for. Ursula is brilliant under this animation, but just the fact that Ariel has to communicate without her voice, it's just really great. And this is actually where I think we get the best of Ariel's personality. And because she can't talk, we have to read her expression more. We have to see how excited she gets when she sees something new, how nervous she gets when she tries to dance. And that nervousness, I think, is something that I think people sort of undervalue in this film. The idea that, these are all new experiences. Not all of them are going to be like super happy. I'm super excited. Like, oh no, I don't know how to dance. Who wears heels? What are these? These don't seem practical. Oh, but my legs look good. Just gonna wear these. And it goes on from Ariel's having the time of her life. And this is something interesting. I don't really think Eric is what she wants in Little Mermaid. I think Eric is sort of the means to an end. And I'll talk about that a bit later. And for the most part, Ariel's kind of done here from a story progression. She lives the 3 days she wants, but she at times she even seems she forgets that she has to kiss Eric, that it has to be a kiss of true love. Luckily for her, Eric is slowly becoming smitten with her. And when, she finds out that, Eric is entranced or with someone else, it's actually Ursula, we're all sort of worried out about it because, your soul's on the line here. And then Ariel gets her voice back, courtesy of us destroying the magic conch that has her voice in. And we're like, oh, Ariel, it was you. And then everything sort of spirals down because we missed the date. Actually, by really a hair's width. I'd have contested that, but whatever. And then she gets in. Then Triton comes in saying, "I'm gonna get you out of this, Ariel." But nope, she signed a legal contract. Blah blah blah. So like anytime a stupid teenage girl makes a stupid teenage girl decision, someone has to bail her out, and it happens. And this is sort of it for Ariel. This bit like she says she's sorry, and I don't quite get this idea with Ariel. I think there's this weird attempt that Ariel has to have learned a lesson or has to have changed somehow, and she doesn't. And that isn't inherently a bad thing, except she does a stupid thing, and it doesn't feel like we get what she was supposed to have learned because no one really suffers anything. She didn't have a bad experience until the time ran out. So, is it saying that you have to be careful with your passions because if you let them overtake you, you risk hurting people? And that's not really communicated. You have to look throughout this film to see that aspect. The fact that because Ariel is so obsessed with looking for different things, she misses out on commitments to her family and to her friends, like she did with her father on that special song day. And we see that when how she endangers Flounder with going into the abandoned hull and just sort of ignoring his plight. And then we see again when she sells her soul away to only have her parents, well, dad lose his own soul to help her. So you could argue that's the lesson, but I don't think this was supposed to have a lesson. Well, a lesson where she has to learn. The idea is Ariel's supposed to be the example for the universe, for the outside universe, where the first three films would teach you the importance of being a decent human being and holding on to your dreams. Ariel's supposed to teach you that sometimes you have to take that leap and achieve your dreams on your own, which may require you taking risks at best. But I still think the other stuff I said about how dangerous it is when you become slaves to your passions and interests that you end up hurting people. Coming up to Eric, Eric is weird. He's almost Henri bad in some ways, but he's not terribly Henri bad. He's still following the mold of Philip, which is where everyone should be at this point. But we're going to see a lot of really interesting Disney princes later on in this Renaissance lineup. Eric sort of lives in Philip's shadow in a way, but he looks a lot like Henri in some ways. Like if his hair was a bit more dull and his eyes weren't blue, you'd swear this was just use the mold from that other guy. Yeah, no one will know. No one will know. No one will know. Just no one will know. And he has a really great moment early on when we see him on the ship. He's playing the flute, playing with his dog. Just having fun. And he talks about how yeah, I don't want to marry. Look, I'm looking for a specific someone. I don't want to marry just someone who's just pretty. And I think that really sums up Eric's character. Eric becomes entranced by this woman with a beautiful voice who saved him, and that's sort of it for the majority of his character. He's a very nice person. As we see, he takes Ariel in, says, okay, I don't know what happened to you, but you're welcome to stay with me. And he sort of becomes very smitten with her. Like I don't think he's aware of it. We see scenes when he's just staring at her. He finds her oddities funny. But then again, I would also find a girl who combs her hair with a fork. I'm sorry, a dingle hopper. I was raised properly. A dingle hopper. I think it shows a real sign. Like if that doesn't weird you out, she's the one, man. She's the one. But at the same time, he does seem very focused on this ideal person for him, like this person who saved me with his beautiful voice. In his deluded state, he was just regaining consciousness. He's hearing that voice. It's bright out. He can't make out that was Ariel, and he's sort of holding out, which is why when they're rowing and the great scene "Kiss the Girl" is going on, he's sort of resisting at first. Well, he's not picking up her sort of flirtations, and he tries to guess a name like Mildred. No offense to people actually named Mildred, but that's not a very attractive name. Just gonna say it right now. And so, like Mildred, like you, just pretty much saying you're not that interested. And we see that sort of intimacy going on. Like when the mood is right, I think he was almost remembering like this could be Ariel, or it could be more in line with the episode "The Fortune Teller" in Avatar: The Last Airbender, when it doesn't occur to Katara that when Aunt Wu said you'll marry a powerful bender, that it could have been Aang until Sokka says, I always forget how powerful a bender that kid is, and it resonates within her. But at the same time, Eric doesn't have much to do, and there's sort of an objectification issue, and I hate to bring this up, but a big issue you hear about a lot in the Disney Prince lineup is the subject-object dichotomy. You know, subjects act, objects are acted upon, and honestly, isn't that Eric? Isn't Eric the object in this movie? I mean, honestly, Ariel does not want Eric more than she wants to live on the surface. If she had to pick, it would be to live on the surface. I think, like gun to her head. Or if Ursula had not mentioned, oh, you got to kiss that guy. Yeah, you got to kiss that guy, otherwise I get your soul. That's kind of it. Like if she had gotten, okay, look, you have to find a place to live in 3 days, and it can't be with that guy. Just find like any other guy. She'd have been fine. She probably would have never seen Eric again, except maybe like at the occasional party. And at the same time, Ursula uses Eric to achieve her goal over Ariel, and then manipulates him again when she creates that disguise using Ariel's voice. He's acted upon in a lot of ways, but again, it's sort of like the question is, why aren't we applying the standard to both characters? We're only really applying to the female ones. And maybe it's because it's more obvious there, but I think if we don't look at these things with the same standard you're setting, I think that's a problem. I mean, I've already felt that, in the early days, we had princes whose sole purpose was to not be characters, but to rescue people, but to be the reward for the princess. And we can accept that and move on because we've gone past that in storytelling. Everything's gotten better, and I don't think these all belie some horrible problem going on with ingrained misogyny and misandry. Sometimes a movie is just a movie to some people. Sometimes a movie is nowhere near a movie. He said, acting like he had nothing bad to say about Last Jedi. But the beauty of Eric and Ariel is that it's an almost passionate maid romance. Like, it's solely based on the fact that Ariel wants two things: to live on the surface and to be with Eric. In that order, I'd honestly say. And then we see Eric, who wants his ideal girl, and then later Ariel. We could argue that these two, in the 3 days, honestly, have sort of connected in a way. Why? Because they aren't trying to connect. That's the beauty of. They're not saying, well, Ariel is supposed to connect with Eric within the 3 days, but for the most part, she's not doing that. She's having fun. She's having the time of her life, living this dream of life on the surface. She's got the legs now. She can walk. She can dance and whatnot. And Eric is meeting a girl that does not live to the new standard he set, and he's still falling for her. It works because they aren't trying. And I think that's something that's going to really work well in the Disney Renaissance formula for Disney princesses and princes. That the relationship is going to try to be as unintentional as possible, even though you and the audience are expecting it to happen. So that's kind of it. I think there's a lot to say about Ariel, about how she could be viewed as a bad example, but I think that's if we put her under too critical an eye. Like Snow White, she is an ideal. She is the first of her era, and at the core, she is someone I think people should strive to be. Where Snow White was striving the importance of being a really decent person as the source of your real beauty, Ariel is sort of the idea that there are dreams, there are things you want to achieve, go achieve them. Be a bit smarter, read the terms and conditions, you know, if you've met a shady witch, do not trust her when she offers you everything unless you have the high ground, a key and, something in your pocket for leverage. No, but, there's something to be said about that passion and drive that people should have. And Eric doesn't really exist to teach you a lesson. He's not. He's almost there to be the reward, but he's also there to be the hero. And he's trying to have his own story. It's still sort of ingrained into that romance bit, but whatever. It doesn't ruin his character, it doesn't enhance it that much. His character is that. So if we had to come to the parallels for Ariel and Eric, honestly, I would say Ariel is Mabel Pines. And that's because Mabel is so interested in anything that comes up. The idea of 80s music, of boys, of candy. Once she finds out about it, she sort of immerses herself into it. She's got a lot of drive, there are things she wants, and she goes for it. That's really great. It's really fun. It's what makes her a fun character. With Eric, it took me a while because Eric is still at the end of the day kind of boring. His real solo character moment was at the beginning of the film. But at his core, I think he's a romantic. He's the one that says he's the guy from all those romance novels, except his hair isn't long enough. He lives on the shore. He plays a musical instrument. He's got a dog. He lives in a castle by the sea, and he'll let you live there and feed you. And he's got a dress that fits just right for you, and he loves all your eccentricities. He'll watch all your sitcoms with you, all your fandoms, and he'll bring you food. He's Derek Shepherd from Grey's Anatomy. Because also some days I want to punch him in the face. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Derek Shepherd. But there is something to be said about the good parts about Derek when it comes to true love and his views on that. He believes that it's worth fighting for. He believes that you meet someone and it's just kismet. And I think Eric sort of is the epitome of that, at least at this point. Or I could be horribly wrong. But anyway, if you are new here to the Bucket Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'd love to hear opinions. So put them down there, and I will catch you later. This is the Bucket Think Tank signing out. May your fandom serve you well.